That's probably good TV.
All right, we are live. Hey, just a little bit late, a couple minutes late. Welcome everybody to this prestigious gathering of the Quilluminati for the month of March. Spring is in the air, and it is time for the Quilluminati to gather and talk about the Grand Poobah's pick, Mystic River by Dennis Lehane.
And you know what the funny part is? I think we all have different editions.
Do we all have?
Yeah, because Philip has the big one from
the
library.
large print edition.
To spoil it, I liked it enough, though. I will be buying it. I'll be buying the physical version for sure.
Yeah. Let me go around the horn and introduce everybody. We got my brother from the north, hardest working guy on BookTube, the Grand Poobah of the Quilluminati. This was his dream child, and this is his pick this quarter. Brian Bell from BellTube. How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm awesome. I love doing the Quilluminati, gatherings. You guys are the best. Absolutely three of my favorite channels on BookTube, and there are a lot to pick from. So yeah, I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to talk about the book, and yeah, I'm excited to have you host. So,
yeah, I know. Right below him on my screen anyway is, I gotta say, the inspiration for me starting my own channel, my North Star on BookTube, man. Mike, the big dog on BookTube. The guy that has made me buy more books than anyone else in my lifetime, Mike from Mike's Book Reviews. How are you doing, my friend?
John, I am doing awesome. Thank you so much for asking. And I'm just glad that I'm not the first one to say Quilluminati wrong. So
give me a second.
I prided myself and I never said it wrong on my channel until the other day. And I was like, I'm leaving that in. I'm leaving that mistake.
I'm going to butcher.
I'm going full Brian Bell. I'm not editing this video.
Yeah. That's right.
No, nothing gets edited. Nothing gets edited.
I learned that from Mike. That's good.
Last but not least, not only the doctor and the decider of what is the best of fantasy, but the incredibly talented of the writer of the Adan trilogy. And I just got to tell you, congratulations for selling out this amazingly beautiful edition from the Broken Binding.
I didn't even get one. This is amazing, man. That's how in demand they were. No, that's awesome.
Sold out the whole run. That means we get book 2. I know you're working on it. I'm so excited. And I also am very much looking forward to Wild Darkness Gathers, the prequel story. Dr. Philip Chase in the house. How are you tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great. It is wonderful to be here with you guys. The real challenge is to say Quilluminati 10 times fast.
I'm not even trying.
Once fast. Yeah.
I'm not even trying.
After that, here, John. Also, as long as we're plugging books here, everybody go read Discovery by J.A.J.P. Minton. It is the book of the year, the surprise, just a fantastic book, everybody. You got to check it out. I know you're all here, you're checking out, you're listening to us, but it's John's channel, so I hope you're all familiar with Discovery. But if not, it is the book written by the Mintons. It is cosmic horror par excellence. It is Lovecraft meets Tarantino. It is so much more. It is deep stuff that will terrify you, but also make you think about your place in the universe at the same time.
This thing has a lot of fathers. It sounds like a lot of mothers and fathers.
Oh yeah,
it's got a lot of Mr. Pooh especially. And thanks so much. Pre-sale goes live Saturday, so check it out. JAJMinton.com if anyone.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the physical version.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming, Mike.
and the funniest part is, of the three of us, that didn't write this book, the one that I think it's actually right targeted at is Mike. In terms of all of our tastes, I think that book is a Mike book more than a Philip book or a Brian book, and I loved it. So that's really good.
We will see. I gotta welcome everybody in the chat. There's a lot of folks here. Usually we single a lot of folks out. There's so many people here, and I know you guys are raring to get at the book talk from this quarter's Quilluminati choice. So let's get rolling. If you guys in the chat have questions, we're going to go spoiler free for a little bit here, and then we'll get into deep spoilers. If you've read along with us this quarter of Mystic River, hit us up with questions in chats. I'm going to do the absolute best I can to get to everyone. Welcome. Hello to all of you. It's wonderful to see you here. And the other three gentlemen that are better at multitasking than me, if you see something in the chat, let me know so I can highlight it.
And I would like to add that we will be announcing the Q2 book before we get into spoilers. So worry not about that.
And it'll be Mike's choice, so I'm off the hook completely.
Yes.
No
yes.
vanish. I was like, he's gonna get spear cuts through water or some shit.
Yeah.
I had it all set up. I had it all lined up.
We had our first official. What Philip? What would the word that would be a censure for him to not be able to pick a book this time
An
around?
official skip.
He's not quite excommunicated.
I put it
Yeah.
off for another quarter. You guys, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm close. I was close. It was nip and tuck. Okay, let's start with Brian, the Grand Poobah of the Quilluminati, because this was your pick. What did you think overall, Brian? How did the book hit you?
Okay. I have never had a 5-star book like this be the least enjoyable reading experience I've ever had in terms of events. This, to me, is an absolute 5-star banger book, and I had probably the least good time with this book than I have with a book in memory. So yeah, I'm sure that as we get into specifics of the book, I'll be able to talk about why. But in terms of, and I never give 5 stars to anything. I mean, like 2 or 3 a year tops. And this is definitely one of them for me. But it was not an enjoyable time. I'll say that. And when we get into spoilers, I'm sure I'll talk more about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go to Mike, because I know Mike, I think, had the same take that I did on it.
I thought it was absolutely incredible. I had been told that when I read Blackmouth earlier in the month, that everybody told me, hearing how much you like Blackmouth, I know you're going to love Mystic River. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. And now that I read, I understand where they were coming from, because I can see lots of similarities in there between the two, whereas that's full-on supernatural horror, and this is, real-life horror. So kind of piggyback off what Brian said there. I was splitting time reading this and reading Richard Swan's new book, which is fantasy horror. And I thought, let me take a break from the horrible events in Mystic River to go finish this horror book first.
Right.
Because as a parent, the first third of this book is incredibly difficult to read. Yeah. Very, very hard. And I think that's just because Lehane is just absolutely amazing at painting a scenario, I think, and just make you feel like that character at that moment if you have kids. And I think if you don't have kids, it might make you think, I don't ever want to have kids, because it's the kind of worry. I think that's the worst fear as a parent, right? And I think this is the first time since like Pet Sematary, I think, where I've really felt the grief of a character like that. And I think that's a hell of and just impressive first read for me with Dennis Lehane. And I will definitely be reading more from him.
For sure.
Yeah, I absolutely echo that. Dr. Chase, where are you on this one?
I'm probably more similar to Brian in that, yes, I do recognize the talent that went into writing this story. Incredibly atmospheric, and just got it. Dennis Lehane has a gift for dialogue. Lots of praise. We'll get into the specifics, but it is a very well written book in many respects. That said, it's a pretty depressing book, and it's got some serious, as Mike said. Totally agree. It's got some heavy stuff in it. This has lots of trigger warnings and that kind of thing.
All of them.
Yeah, pretty much all of them. Yeah. So just be warned if you haven't read this. It's a dark one. It's a really dark one. And not just in what happens, but I think in the overall just sort of I don't know much about Dennis Lehane or his philosophy, but it felt to me like there's a lot of just sort of a lot of these characters really had very little choice in what happens to them or how they react to it. So it felt like it was very deterministic and maybe even verging on nihilistic at times. And that's just, that's the kind of story it is. So just be warned. It's brilliantly told, but it is a really deterministic story where, certain things happen to you when you're a kid. It feels like in the story, at least, you're almost destined to act out in certain ways when you're older. We'll get into the specifics of that. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure I agree necessarily. I'd like to believe that the people have a little more say in what they do. So we'll have to get into that as we talk spoilers. Yeah, it was also just like Brian said, it was not really fun for me to read this book. After reading Baker's the last book in the second.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah,
are you sure that Baker didn't put you in the mood before you started this?
Yeah. Oh my goodness! So I read the Unholy Consult before reading this, and it was like back to back, just flat out depressing, bleak, and very deterministic stories in a way. Except this one's
don't let these sissies chase you off. It's a wonderful book. It's a wonderful.
Yeah.
Look.
No, it's very difficult to read, but it's a wonderful.
I am with Mike. This is how much I'm with Mike. I ran out and bought Blackmouth after Mike talked about it because I buy whatever Mike talks about like that. That's why my reading life is happy. So I like this dark, seedy underbelly that the chaos of trauma knows no rules. It's going to strike anybody for any reason. And once it strikes you, it is a hole that you may not be able ever to crawl out of, no matter how much those around you may want you to, no matter how much you redefine yourself with secrets that make you think you can or did. I loved everything about it. It was a great read. Just to be a little bit non-spoiler for a little bit longer, what would you say your favorite part, Brian? Would you go plot, characters, dialogue, themes? I mean, what was your number one of this book that made it a 5-star for you, even though it was hard to get through for you?
Yeah. So I think it's really weird. Like, I don't really think about theme a whole lot while I'm in the book. I'll think of theme after the book. So while I was reading it, what I was really appreciating is his descriptive tone, his atmosphere setting. I even pulled a section out of the book that I want to read at some point. It's not going to spoil anything. So we could do that whenever to give people a taste of the writing and kind of the overall vibe. And he's talking about going to a sports game at the stadium. And I found that to be just incredible. But I would say that for me, my favorite part about his writing style is dialogue, because it is so realistic. From the time that, we start this book, they're three, children, and they're talking to each other like kids talk to each other. And I know Stephen King is really good at that. But it's been a long time since I've read Stephen King talking about, maybe Fairy Tale was maybe the last one, where he had a child protagonist. But yeah, I think for me, dialogue, it felt very real. Everything about this book felt very real. So I think that's why. And just to kind of go off of what I was saying earlier, and then I'll pass the baton, is that I think with this book, timing is everything. So like in Philip's case, when he's coming off of Second Apocalypse and jumping right into this, you're going to see it through that kind of lens that's left over. And in my case, I had a lot of family stuff, IRL, going on in the medical world that was draining every ounce of my mental and spiritual and emotional energy. And then I go pick up this book, and these people have it worse than I do. And it's like, oh my God. So I think on another day, I may have slightly different feelings for this one, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of Dark Age when I read that. I was kind of going through a down time in my life, and then I read Dark Age by Pierce Brown in Red Rising, and that is not a fun book to read either. And it kind of just was a timing thing. So yeah, I'll pass the baton. That's kind of where I'm at there.
What would you say, Mike? Do you have a favorite category, or was it just all of them together?
First off, Brian, you need to fix that you haven't read very much Stephen King lately.
Yes.
Lately.
I know.
Yeah.
You need to fix that. Well, sticking with the Stephen King theme here, something that I love that he explores in his books always is something traumatic happened to us as kids. And you come out either two ways. You come out stronger for it, or you don't deal with it and it just completely wrecks your life. And I think we see that in the story. Obviously, with what happens to Dave is obviously worse than what happens to the other two, but I think it shows, if you don't deal with that, like it's at that time period where it's like, you just don't talk about it. That's that time period. Mm-hmm. And it just shows how it would go about just completely messing someone up. You need the years of therapy to get over something like that. So I think with that is, again, it just showing how things that we do in our childhood, and if you don't deal with them, how they're going to forge what kind of adult you become. And as we can see in this case, it was I think it changed them all in very different ways. And I mean, obviously the one who the main thing happens to, that's the one that, we're obviously going to focus on here. But you can see all three of these kids are changed from that one seminal event that's changed them forever. And I love that. Stephen King does that great. Clearly Lehane's doing that really good. Now it seems like I'm finding Ronald Malfi, who seems to be doing that very well. That's a formula I'll never, ever get tired of. So even if it doesn't have just a straight coming of age, because I want to say this has like really a coming of age book, because it is very much the prologue, their kids, and then their adults, with some flashbacks here and there. I'd say he does tackle that theme pretty well. Whereas my wife watched the movie, she claims that the theme is miscommunication. Like people just don't talk.
There's a lot of that.
If they would just actually talk to each other, they could figure a lot of things out. And I'm like, oh yeah, kind of like how. Well, we'll talk about that in spoilers.
Yeah, but I would agree with your wife. Not only talk to each other, but hear, listen. Yeah. What would you think, Dr. Chase? I know you appreciated the work in the book, even though it was tough. What was your fave part?
Did he freeze?
Frozen.
Either that or he's asleep. This book put people to sleep.
He'll pop back in, I'm sure.
What about you, John? What did you?
You know what? I'm with Brian. I think the dialogue was so amazing, and I think it's maybe my time in the theater. I had to read huge chunks of this book out loud, and I found myself reading huge chunks with an accent, because it's so perfect. It's so perfectly written, that you automatically embody the characters and what they're going through. It just transports you. It just takes you. And if I had a second, it'd be like that. He got sense of place, like down, like this neighborhood, or right of the crux of like the two neighborhoods, one a touch more affluent than the other.
Points,
the flats and the point. He had that sense of place and how that place impacted these kids growing up, on top of the instigating incident that we will get into here when we launch into spoilers. That I think we've been going a touch over 15 minutes, so we're probably safe to get in.
Pretend to know anything about the South Side of Boston, but I felt like, okay, this feels like I'm in The Departed, and I think that's what he's going for. Then that's it. And someone saying in the comments here that, I hesitate to speak for region, but having grown up 10 miles from Southie, that swallow mentality is very Boston, especially back then.
Yeah. It just transported me absolutely. And that did Philip fall asleep.
I'm just making sure Philip's not trying to message us, but I'll take a quick look. Yeah.
Okay. The inner monologues were seamless. You really felt like you were in the head. That is true. Not only the dialogue out loud, but
that's
their inner
one of my
monologues.
criticisms of the movie was there's some things that they couldn't do because so much of this book is monologues. And you can't really understand some of those things.
So do we want I think we're about to be joined by the good doctor. There we go.
He's awake.
Philip, did you see when your screen froze, your eyes were closed?
I was like, wow, he really did
you were blinking when it froze.
Yeah.
So it absolutely looked like you completely conked out. And we're all just going, is he asleep?
At least I wasn't picking my nose.
Yeah. It looked like you nodded off during office hours there, Dr. Chase. Okay, so what would you? I know you appreciate the craftsmanship of this, even though it was a tough read. Would you say themes, characters, dialogue, sense of place? What was it that, if you would, or just an amalgamation of all of them, how he put them together?
Yeah, no, I agree with Brian about the atmosphere being one of the real, I think, selling points of this book. It's just so well done, and it's not only the characters, but it's the setting itself. It is one of the things that I liked about this book was I felt like I got to know this corner of Boston in a way. It's like it's a character in and of itself. And the Mystic River, similar to a previous book we read, we had a river that took on a sort of symbolic
ordinary grace,
overtone. Yeah, exactly.
There are so many parallels.
Many parallels.
Very similar,
between this and that book. And I even wonder if I think this was published later, if I got that right. But I wonder if one read the other or not. But interesting parallels there with the symbolism of the river and just the darkness of the two stories. This one is darker, though, by far, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so atmosphere is done well. I think Brian's right that the dialogue feels real, but it's not real. Nobody really talks the way these people in this book talk. It's very scripted in that sense. By the way, if an author actually wrote the way people talk, it would be so boring.
You have to write or
like
exactly like so yeah, it would be super boring if an author actually wrote the way people talk. But the way Lehane writes dialogue, it feels like natural speech, like it would if we were all clever enough to speak without stuttering and
Philip, it's funny you say that, because I believe he even brings it up in the book. He's like, who actually says that? Your wall of your life, motherfucker. Who actually says that in real life? Who has the perfect line?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But I mean, it feels real and it crackles with drama. Like it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's really something. I think he's very gifted in that respect. Though I will, if I'm gonna reach for any kind of a criticism, it would
go for it.
Everybody kind of talks the same way. The dialogue is vivid and it's cool. It's snappy and crisp, but it feels like it's a bit of samey, I guess. And now they're all from the same social class, I guess. So that kind of makes sense.
This just sounds like a Jersey guy hating on Boston right now. That's what this sounds like.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Why don't you bring that stuff to the South Side, Philip?
Oh, I'll wear my Yankees cap up there in Boston.
Yeah. See how that goes over.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we are coming up on 21 minutes in. So this is the warning. We're going to start getting into spoilers. We're going to start really breaking down what we thought about different parts of it. So
we got to announce.
Can we do an announcement? And I also want to read a paragraph that won't spoil
you can do that
for
first,
anybody, because I think that this will give people a taste of his writing that doesn't have anything to do with any of the characters at all. He's describing what it's like taking his family to a sporting event. I think it's a baseball game. And it says, win for me, win for my kids, win for my marriage, so I can carry your winning back to the car with me and sit in the glow of it with my family as we drive back towards our otherwise winless lives. But when the team lost, that collective hope crumbled into shards, and my illusion of unity you'd felt with, and any illusion of unity you felt with your fellow parishioners went with it. Your team had failed you and served only to remind you that usually when you tried, you lost. When you hoped, hope died, and you sat there in a debris of cellophane wrappers and popcorn and soft, soggy drink cups, dumped back into the numb wreckage of your life, facing a long, dark walk back through a long, dark parking lot with hordes of drunk, angry strangers, a silent wife tallying up your latest failure, and 3 cranky kids. Also, you could get in your car and drive back to your home, the very place from which this cathedral had promised to transport you from.
Anybody that's a sports fan knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
That to me, so that's on page 60, right? And I could tell by page 1, if you get a good author, in a paragraph, if the guy knows what they're doing or the gal knows what she's doing. But when I read that was the most perfect description of a sporting event I've ever read in my life. When you're thinking your team's going to win and then they let you down.
So you make me think of the Minnesota Vikings, Brian.
I think this guy's a secret Vikings fan, or he was a Patriots fan before Brady got there.
No, that's why things go so wicked bad at the Gardens when they lose. That's what that is.
But he had just captured that essence of failure and loss and hope with soggy drink cups and leftover popcorn remnants that just, you feel like you're there. So I wanted to read that. Thank you for indulging me. And I wanted to let people.
That was lovely.
Like I said, that was amazing. I was like, not only is that beautiful, but I was like, he described exactly how I feel every time my team loses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that gives, I think, what Dr. Chase is talking about, that feudalistic feeling of hopelessness in this reality, in the Southie neighborhood, right? Like they are not crawling out of this this is their one moment in the sun, and if they can't get it, they don't have any hope.
Yeah, the idea that you might have a bright spot in your life turns out to be delusional.
Yeah, but the sports god hates you more than anybody. So
yeah.
No, that was awesome.
Keep trying. We're like insects that keep trying to crawl out of our misery, and then we just get flicked back in by life, So
So, thank you, Brian. I thought that was great. That was such a great taste of what this book is, truly on a lot of different levels. So, all right, full warning, we're going spoilers.
Let's talk about the book first.
Next book.
Oh, we're gonna announce the next book first.
You see, he doesn't have to do the next book, so he just wants to skip it.
No, you know what? Take it away, Mike, because I'm off the hook. Nothing makes me happier.
And this will be on Mike's channel.
Yes,
yeah,
Mike
that's
will
the
be
change
hosting.
we're making, guys. The change we're making is that from now going forward, whoever.
My work here is done. Okay. I have converted Philip into. Thank you, Philip.
Gotta love live streams.
I can retire. Thank you.
Yeah.
Philip almost made me choke on my own spit. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so first tell you guys I actually picked Demon Copperhead at first, but we kind of have a rule. Let's keep it under 500 pages. And I had no idea that book was almost 600 pages. So I did not pick that one, but that's one of those where I'm like, I have no idea why people keep recommending that book to me, but they do. But that's why we're not going with that one. This one I picked for two reasons. One, when Christopher Rocchio was in town, I was moderating for him. I've kind of joked that he's this author's personal hype man, so much so that he went and bought the copy in the store to hand to me for me to read.
Wow.
The second is because I figure it's the closest I'm ever going to get to getting Philip to read a horror story. Now, how do I get him to do that? Well, I give him a book that has Lord Byron in it. It has Keats in it. It has Mary Shelley in it. This is The Stress of Her Regard by Tim Powers.
All right.
I don't know very much about the book. I know it is considered fantasy horror-ish. And I think it's got vampires in it or something like that. But this is how we break Philip into horror. We have a book with Keats in it. I think that's an easy sell, right, Philip?
That works. Yeah, it's from 1989, I believe. 1989, 1990, somewhere around there. Yeah.
And it is 420 pages, so I'm in the clear.
And Lord Byron's in it. Awesome.
Yeah. Lord Byron.
Yeah.
I was about to say, wait a second, did I say it wrong?
No, you didn't, but he's saying it wrong. So. You already got the Grand Poobah titles.
True.
So a good vampire read for
I'm excited because I've heard so much about this author, not just from Christopher, I mean, mostly from Christopher, but not just from Christopher. A lot of people have recommended his books to me. Anubis Gates is the one I get recommended a ton, and people tell me that I would like one as well.
Yeah,
but this is the one that that Christopher picked for me, and I said that's a good way to rope Philip in. So we're gonna do it.
Cool.
Well, he'll just be hiding under his blankets while he reads.
I will have the flashlight in there.
I hope he likes it the best of all of us.
I know that would be amazing.
That would make my day. Yeah.
So that will be on June, June gathering, or we'll be getting.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait.
And that'll be on Mike's channel.
Yes.
It will. We will be celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary in Barbados. So it'll actually be when we get back from that. So it'll probably be, if not the second, third week of June. So you guys will have some time.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
15th anniversary. I don't know if I've been on 15 dates.
15th wedding anniversary. So we've actually been together longer.
Okay, so now with the announcement.
Full spoilers.
Full spoiler.
And don't stay if you haven't read it. Please read this. Please.
Yeah.
I want
it's so worth reading. It is not an easy read, but it's so worth reading. It is on every level for me, a 5-star read.
Yeah, particularly because a lot of the people that tune into our channels read mostly fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah,
and this is a little bit outside of that. I mean, apart from Durfee and Josh, I never hear anybody talking about Dennis Lehane in our little side of BookTube. So
Britain. But when I said we were reading, there's a ton of people were like, "Thank God, someone's talking about Dennis Lehane." So this is worth your time for sure.
Oh my gosh, so much so. Yeah. So I mean, we have to start with the inciting incident of what happened in the neighborhood when these three boys are playing. You want to start, Mike, with the nightmare fuel? What made you put the book down for a while?
That's it's what our parents feared, and it's kind of what we fear. Your kid not only getting kidnapped, but what inevitably happens to Dave. You find out about through the course of the book. You're pretty sure you can put together what happened to him at the time. These guys pretending to be cops. And you think about it, and that's a little before my time, honestly, when they were taking place there as kids. But I think even in my day and age, if someone showed up and told you they were a cop, you're probably going to listen. You're probably going to believe them. So it feels like that's probably a pretty good con for some really sick people. But yeah, it's one of those that when they go and they tell Sean's dad, hey, he got in a car, and like immediately they understand what's going on. Like we got to find him. And it's just. yeah, it's right away. It sets the tone. And this is even before you get into another character's daughter getting murdered. So you're already just seeing all these awful things happening to children. And like I said, at this stage of my life, I relate more to the parent, obviously, than I do the kid. And it was awful. It was a very, very awful way to start. But it was one of those where, like, I felt like, okay, I had that kind of spoiled-ish on the back of the cover. You know, it says he got into a car and things was ever the same. I kind of expected somewhat of that, or, you know, something. I'm glad it didn't show it. I'll say that. Right. This book doesn't really hide very much. It shows you pretty much everything. I'm glad they didn't show that. I'm glad they didn't actually show the girl's murder. I'm glad they didn't show either of those things, because I think just seeing that after, you know, the aftermath of these things was bad enough. I can't imagine if it had that in there. I'm a Philip. I don't think I could have actually finished the book if it had actually shown me these things.
Yeah,
for sure.
Anybody and like,
yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Brian.
For me, what really struck me about that, and what came to mind immediately, was that after Dave is kidnapped and molested and abused, this is a sign of the difference between the times that we live in right now versus the time that this book was, you know, set in, because everybody
first of all, they were outside.
Well, yeah, I mean, he got made fun of. He got
talk about it.
He got picked on. He got beat up for it. Nobody wanted to be friends with him anymore because of it. He was totally ostracized, and that isn't really the world that, you know, as bleak as I feel like society is sometimes. When we take a long view and say, gosh, you know what, that's not unrealistic of what would have kind of happened back then. I mean, I know, like, when I was going to high school in the 80s, if somebody wasn't straight, there's a good chance they'd get, you know, beat up for it. Today, that's not the case. And the same thing, you know, with sexual abuse back then. It was never discussed. And if it was, probably ostracized. And it was so striking to me, the difference that, you know, he becomes really this double victim. First, the victim of the incident, and then the aftermath victim from everybody else, let alone the rest of his life, you know, dealing with his own personal trauma from that. So yeah, that talked about stuck out.
His stolen youth, because he basically, you can tell, he just kind of just locks everything away and it just kind of represses those memories, I think, is the way I would understand it. You know, it's kind of, you can't change what happened, but you can try to either forget about it. And this is something Stephen King really explores a lot, is you just either, if you can't forget about it, you just kind of like replace it with like almost like an alternate memory. Like maybe it didn't
reinvent yourself. Yeah.
And that's what some people hear about that. I'd never heard about that, I think, until the 90s, about people who had been molested and they didn't remember it because they traumatized them so much they just blocked it out.
So what Dave does is he creates another entity inside him called the boy.
The
right?
boy.
It didn't happen to me, it happened to the boy. And the boy is the one that has these impulses and wants to act out in these ways because of what happened to him. I think that the introduction part with these three boys also really does a great job of introducing another big theme, which is the division between the three of them. You know, you've got Sean on the one hand, who's from the Point, and he's a little bit, they're all kind of working class, but is upper working class. They look down.
Sean's dad is kind of management,
level. Yeah. And they literally look down on the people in the flats, right? And there's that whole history that Lehane gets into every now and again about how the people in the flats are the descendants of the prisoners. The descendants of the prisoners. So
how come you do this? I should get like guitars or something.
But yeah, so you've got Sean on the one hand, who becomes a police officer appropriately, you know, and that just says a ton about his relationship with these other two. There's resentment, you know. We know why Jimmy doesn't like Sean, and people like him because Jimmy's from the flats, and there's that division. The boys are aware of it. They're at an age where they're becoming more and more aware of these divisions, and they can't just, you know, pretend or that they're no longer innocent of those things. But there's also the division between Dave and Jimmy. Jimmy is, you know, he's destined to be a community leader, at least, and as a criminal, but you know, at least he's looked up to. Whereas Dave, even as a kid before the incident, he was looked at as kind of a loser, you know, and
bit of a tag along.
bit of a tag along, and
yeah, they were only friends because their dads worked together.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So that is something I think that Lehane does very skillfully too. Is introduces that idea of there's a strong sense of community in this story. There's also glimpses at the divisions within these communities as well, and so I think he does a really great job with the social dynamics in here. So yeah, just a lot of cool stuff set up there. But the tragedy of Dave is there are just so many things about the book that, from the moment this happened to Dave, I think, as far as like mystery goes, I had predicted a lot of this. I was surprised at how much actually it panned out pretty much the way I thought. I even knew who
Same.
I figured out who the killer was, but I never figured out why Dave was covered in blood until the end, until it revealed that.
Yeah,
I knew it wasn't Dave. I was like, that's too on the nose for it to be.
That's too. It was too easy. Yeah.
And I'm with Philip on that. I absolutely sleuthed. I don't think Lehane was trying to be too secretive. But I will say that while I sleuthed it out the way he intended me to, I definitely did not get the motivation. I had the motivation for it totally wrong in my head. And it wasn't until the reveal that what I thought why that murder happened, that theory was completely shot apart. So I like that part about it.
Well, let's see if we're the same here. I just assumed it was what was the mute kid's name?
It was Ray.
Yeah. Oh, so Ray Jr. I thought it was his brother was the only one he was close to. He didn't want to leave him alone with
that's exactly what
mom.
I thought. Or the mother put him up to it.
If we had not read Ordinary Grace, would you have snapped to that? Because the parallel is deep on that. Like it is.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why I snapped to it, is because I thought, the kid doesn't want his older brother to leave him.
Yeah.
Or the mother doesn't want the kid to leave him.
Like once. I just thought that was just way too on the nose that it would be Dave. But I couldn't explain why he came home that night covered in blood and brain matter. So
yeah. But it was his little trauma. It was his trauma that he was finally snapped and acted on, and then that was the shoe to fall there. But I think that there's so many parallels for me between this and Ordinary Grace. There's every yin has a yang, or there's this is the dark side of that, where we don't find the light of humanity to transcend trauma and step up. This is just, as Dr. Chase said, far more hopeless. The things that strike me is, like, Brian, you're so right. There's the skill of Lehane here to place it in a time period, and Josh was echoing this as well, to place it in a time period where you could have that that othering and that pariah type situation where a whole childhood would be lost. And then Tori bringing up the repressed memories is something that definitely happens in victims like that. And also, congratulations on 15 years, Tori. It's a weird time to stop and say that, but that's amazing. Same month as Mike. There's so much going on that Lehane does well. But the interesting thing for me, if we're talking inciting incidents, is there's almost, like Mike says, there's almost dual inciting incidents, because this happens as they're children. Two of them realize, there's stuff in the back seat. There's trash. This is weird. This doesn't feel right. They kind of back away. One, the tag along kind of falls for it and gets in the car, and you see him waving from the window as they turn the corner. It's just a nightmare happening right in front of your eyes, as he describes it. And then when they're grown up, we have an inciting incident that brings all of this trauma from their childhood back around. All of these things that Davis had to completely reinvent himself, redefine himself, have the boy and lock it away, and have a different reality for himself to move forward. But now that's not going to be able to keep happening, because he's not only snapped from a trigger, but this second inciting incident. And for me, the second inciting incident was just as hard as a parent to read as that first one.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Any thoughts on the second one, guys?
Well, believe it or not, for me, them actually finding her body was as rough as for me as Jimmy's reaction. Because I felt like if you're a parent, you are Jimmy in that moment. You feel that in your soul, I think. And he just writes it in a way that's just like, okay, I gotta stop for now, because I was emotionally drained. I was like, I gotta put it down for a minute, because I was like, I'm gonna spiral into a depression if I do this right now. But Yeah, that was, I think that was much harder than the actual finding of the body.
I think that he described it so well too, because that's what would happen, right? The police tape is up. They won't let you through. They know you're the father of the victim. They're asking if you want some coffee. You have to feel like so unbelievably helpless in that moment. And Lehane absolutely captures that perfect in writing, which I think is just really hard to do. It takes a great level of skill to bring out that type of frustration / rage that you would have with those cops, that that they know what's going on, and they're not clear to tell you because they're not management, or they by policy have to keep you away from the crime scene, even though they know what they know. So yeah, it was very well done.
Like this does something that like only The Sopranos could do, where it's like Jimmy, not a very nice guy, but because of this incident, I'm on his side the whole book.
Yeah,
maybe the last like couple chapters, but I'm just saying that. He's not a very good guy, but I'm on his side because
he actually even later says, "Hey, I'm evil," I guess, but yeah, that scene is the most powerful scene in the entire book.
With him and Dave,
Jimmy screaming.
When they
that or
Jimmy's
tell the
at
truth
crime scene.
tell the truth part. Yeah, that was
Yeah, for me, it was definitely Jimmy's reaction to
Dave's speech about vampires. That hit me in the soul a little bit. Maybe it's just I'm a horror fan, but I knew exactly what the hell he was talking about.
I mean, and that's
his wife's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I was like, "I know where he's coming from."
Yeah.
But that's the sad thing about Dave, that he's labeled from the time he's a kid, and it's almost like he's forced into this role, and that's that determinism, Yeah, exactly, Kellen. That's the moment I felt like that was. I actually put the book down too in that moment, because that was.
He said, "I'm gonna go read this book with monsters and shit in it now to find something to kind of cleanse the palate before I go back to Mystic River.
I need something lighter." But
Richard's
Jimmy
book has people like getting their heads lopped off, and I'm like, I would rather read that right now.
It feels less real, that's for sure.
Yeah. For me, Jimmy, it so exhibits that wonder wheel of chaos and trauma, because think about how many stops he's had. I mean, he's lived through prison, lived through his wife passing away, lived through having to get to know his child again, and then have that child ripped away when it was the only thing that kept him going after he got out of prison, and made him reinvent himself and redefine himself to start life anew. Like the wheel has stopped on trauma for this guy so many times. It made it brutal to read.
Yeah.
And in a sense too, he's the flip side of Dave, because at the end, when he has when he realizes, I'm sure we're going to talk about that scene too, after he's killed Dave, stabbing him and dumping him in the river. He's basically consoled. He feels it. He's like, I messed up here, and then his wife convinces him, rather convincingly, that we're not weak. They're weak, right? Mm-hmm. They're the weak ones. And that Jimmy has that weakness in him too, but his wife is bucking him up here. And it's said several times, this woman is hard. This woman is really.
Yeah, that's where I feel like the movie missed a little bit, because they didn't really build that character up or talk about their relationship or how they met. It's like this goes to, it talks about like how they met when he got out of prison and stuff like that, how she asked him that one question. And he says at the end that, she just wanted me to be honest. And the movie, that line with her talking to Jimmy, what you're talking about, it didn't hit as hard because we didn't get that backstory at all. So I feel like that's where the movies just can't match a book, guys, because there's without that inner monologue or those flashbacks.
I mean,
the movie doesn't show like the killing at all. It just starts with them finding the body. So it's
really.
Well, you think about it. In this, you see it from her point of view, and you see like the person laying in the road or whatever.
Right.
I guess you can do that and keep the mystery as a reader. You can't really do it on the screen, without you saying like, okay, well, it was this or that. Who's totally missed it, by the way. They want to know her name part of the phone call. I totally missed that.
Yeah,
I totally missed that. They want to know her name.
Her name.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to bring up something real quick that I think Dr. Chase had brought up about neighborhood, the society of a neighborhood, and he got it so right. And I think I agree. He got it so right because of the way neighborhoods operate, in that they our secrets, and that each house, it's like, when I was reading it, I got the feeling it's like you know, when you're in your car on the freeway, and this is my own little bubble, and I'm listening to my music, I'm in my bubble, and there's all these other bubbles around us, and houses on the street are a lot like that. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And when Dave got brought back in there in the bedroom window, looking down at the party on the street, and we've got the point and the flats and these separations and the way these lines are drawn and the way neighborhoods work with secrets. And I just thought that was such a theme that moves so all the way through this book, is what we say to each other, what we don't say to each other, what we don't say to ourselves, and how we communicate and the secrets we keep. And I thought that neighborhood set that up so well. Does anybody want to talk about that theme?
I mean, clearly you're right, because that's exactly what my wife said about this. That's her big takeaway. She's in the comments here. That's something that she brought up. Let
me get patience up there.
Communication is the real theme of the book. I'm like, well, yeah, you're definitely not wrong. I'm not like her and Philip. I can't 100% define the exact theme every single time I read anything, or get the theme that I'm looking for. With me, it's just, I always stick to those traits that I know. But yeah, you're bringing up some really good points, and I'm just stepping all over them now. So someone else talk.
Well, you married really well, Mike.
My wife's in the comments. I'm nervous, you guys. Performance. She never watches my channel. What is this?
Hymns. It's brought to you by Hymns.
Anybody else? Anybody else on that one, or should we move on? I mean, it happens so many times that we have scenes of people saying, I mean, let's look at that in scene. Like, Dave says the truth, but he doesn't hear it. It's that Shakespearean thing of what you think you understand, or what you think you hear, or identity mistaken, that creates everything going off the rails down the road,
No.
Well, I mean, I guess he actually took Jimmy at his word, said, okay, if you tell me the truth, I'll let you live. You'll just go to jail.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I mean, I guess jail's better than dying. I can eventually get out of jail, or maybe get off somehow, and go back to my wife and fix everything. But, I think us in the audience were saying, don't do it. Honestly, really, a theme about this book: don't get in the back of cars, because when they come, they pretend to be friends with Dave. They go, "Hey, let's go have a boys' day in the middle of the afternoon." I'm like,
Al,
Dave, did you not learn your lesson?
Idea.
Don't get in the back of cars. So,
yeah,
I think one of the themes that I noticed was, and I think that this might have to do with what has happened to these characters and their upbringing, but when something bad happens, there's a bit of a justice versus revenge type of theme here between the characters. So we've got Sean, who looks at when crime happens, then there needs to be justice by the law, by the way that things are supposed to be done. And then we have Jimmy and his wife and his brother-in-laws and her family and all that put justice in their own hands, and they're more of the revenge vigilante type of a theme. And I think we get a pretty clear view of the difference between justice versus revenge through the lens of Sean v. Jimmy throughout all their actions, really culminating to the very end of the book when they're at the parade. And, Sean is looking at Jimmy and he knows what's going on, and Jimmy's looking right back at him and he knows what's going on. And it really struck me that I don't know if it was an intended theme on the author's part, but I just felt like those two characters act in a certain way when a crime occurs mentally, in that regard. Justice v. revenge. Just something that I noticed.
Yeah, Patience has a great point there, and the whole scene with Jimmy and Dave near the end, where Jimmy says, "Hey, just confess and I'll let you live," and poor Dave doesn't understand that message. It is all over the place. It is all over, and also the ways we delude ourselves, and that's a big reason for the miscommunication, because we want our lives to be a certain way. We want to believe the lies we tell ourselves about our lives, and that they're okay, and that we can get over whatever it is we're trying to get over. But with all that lying to ourselves, we do miss a lot of the communication, or Dave not telling his wife.
That's it. Why
Dave not telling his wife what happened, and she's thinking Dave killed Katie. Dave killed Katie. Right. And of course, when she goes and tells Jimmy, You get the
Jimmy's
sense
wife. Yeah.
that Dave's wife kind of had a thing for Jimmy and was resentful that she didn't get the alpha male, and Jimmy's wife was onto that, right? And she even says at the end, that's a tough scene. Again, it's like,
she said that
what kind of woman does that?
We're getting that vibe.
What kind of woman is disloyal to her
Mhm.
husband, right?
Yeah.
She's like, it's her own cousin. And she's like, what a punk, how could she be disloyal to her man? And let me show you, Jimmy, what loyalty is, So yeah, I mean that.
I took it as she was just scared of Jimmy. So
no, there was a moment.
No, that was I think that was a true Lady Macbeth moment right there.
Yeah. So Dave's wife. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name. What was Dave's wife's name?
Just start with a C.
Yes,
Celeste?
yes, Griffin.
Griffin, yes.
Celeste. Yes, Celeste.
Yeah, starts with a C.
Celeste.
Yeah.
Definitely had a thing for Jimmy. And there was a moment when she was really wanting to hug him and have his tears drip down her neck or something like that. And it was like, yeah, okay. That was when I realized, oh, wait, Celeste kind of likes Jimmy that way, doesn't she? And Jimmy's wife, very perceptive. I'm not sure I like her very much, honestly, because she's like, they're weak and we're, all that. But she understood that part of her cousin's motivation there was to be
the biggest villain in this whole book is Jimmy's father-in-law. How are you going to have that talk with Jimmy fucking 6 hours after he just found out that his daughter was murdered? That's
I was
a year from now if he still is like comatose. You don't have that conversation.
I was 5 seconds away after Philip mentioned
father-in-law, and I wanted to punch him.
Yeah. I was literally 5 seconds away after Philip mentioned her. And before Mike said that was to ask you guys who've seen this, is he in the movie?
Yes, that scene is word for word in the movie.
That scene's in the movie?
Rose my blood pressure. Yes.
Yeah. Because he's really, I mean, obviously a very minor character in terms of characters, but what a huge impact between the kind of person that his daughter turned out to be and his sons turned out to be and all of that.
The savages. Yeah.
The savages.
He's a patriarch of a crime family,
Yeah.
So it's like, again, say it's been a year's gone by and Jimmy's not taking care of stuff at home. You have that talk then. You don't have that talk the day of,
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Also, though, we were talking earlier about the police versus the revenge, from the criminal families involved. The police are also kind of shady at times in here, right? Like you've got
Whitey does a lot of off the record kind of stuff.
Kind of off the record.
Dave's smart enough to know you can't use this against me. Oh, somebody stole the car during that time period. They must have put a body in the trunk.
Even Sean, holds Katie's boyfriend. What was?
Oh, the false tickets. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's some petty shit, isn't it?
And he does the false ticket thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what was Katie's boyfriend? Brendan.
Starts with a B. Yeah.
Brendan. He holds Brendan, knowing full well he has no legal right to do so, but he's hoping to get something out of him.
Let's just say no one has it as bad as Dave, okay, or Jimmy, who both lost a child and had their childhood stolen. But I felt a lot for Sean with the thing where his wife left and will call and not say anything. I was like, my heart's breaking for this guy.
Not communicating again. Not communicating again.
Patient's already said the silent phone call.
Yes, my wife is always right, you guys.
No,
I don't have to hear it.
That's my takeaway from this whole book is always trust Spike's wife.
All this talk about it makes me strike on another theme that really struck me was the misuse of authority, the misuse of leadership. Like Ray Jr.'s dad leaving him, the police, Sean himself, the two fake police misusing that authority to get young Dave in the car. I mean, over and over again, we see examples of authority being completely misused to bring about trauma on a really heavy duty level. Like that happens again and again through the book.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, before I forget to mention, I just want to say that I keep bringing up that the movie isn't better than the book. Obviously, amazing adaptation. Again, Clint Eastwood doesn't really miss when it comes to these things. There's one scene in the movie I thought was just absolutely incredible. Is at the very beginning when Dave gets taken, you see Sean and Jimmy, young Sean and Jimmy, just standing there, and you see the car leaving with Dave in the back, and them just kind of zooming out. And later on, when Sean goes to confront Jimmy about where he basically knows. And Jimmy actually tells, Dave, I feel like Dave died the minute he got back in that car. And it kind of just does the same scene with the two of them as adults. And it's just like, wow, that's like incredibly beautifully haunting, heartbreaking kind of stuff. So
who plays who in the movie?
Sean Penn is Jimmy, which I'll be honest, when I heard that, I was like, I am not getting Sean Penn out of this. I've never seen Sean Penn play a tough guy. You know, I could not imagine.
Dude.
He drilled it. He's amazing. Kevin Bacon's always solid. Tim Robbins is always solid.
But who plays who? So Sean Penn's Jimmy.
Tim Robbins was Dave, and Kevin Bacon is Sean.
Okay. I could see that.
Yeah, so it wasn't what I imagined reading it, but they were all wonderful on screen.
Didn't Clint Eastwood also write the music for the movie? He did the music, I think.
I'm not sure on that one, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, he's a badass.
He plays the piano and stuff. Like he's like
really
multi-talented.
Clint Eastwood's he's good at what he does.
Yeah,
which is life. He does life. He does life very well. He's very successful.
Don't quote me on it, but I think Clint Eastwood actually wrote the music for the film. I think.
Wow.
Well, see, Josh, I wanted to watch the movie when it came out because I was hearing a lot about it. And I said, I want to read the book first. And then I never did. And 20 years later, Brian says, hey, we should read Mr. Brown. I said, great. I'll finally get to watch the movie.
Finally.
I always love Clint Eastwood movies. He makes amazing movies.
Yeah. I wanted to watch it. I just haven't got around to it yet.
I couldn't. I actually wanted to.
You can't watch it?
I don't feel like it hits as hard as the book, but it's still not easy.
I mean, I watched it when it came out, which was like 20-something years ago, I think. And I don't remember it at all. But
really?
And I was going to watch it after reading the book. And then I thought, no, I think I've had enough for now. But later.
I mean, you know what? I think books are, like Mike said, it's so hard to adapt this because you travel with these characters through the trauma because of the inner monologue and because the way a book works. I mean, it's so hard for a movie to capture that. You know, I just think that's why
just being like, hey, why would this guy just be? Either you're going to have them talking to themselves. Yeah, you're going to have it. You're talking about like, oh, well, that isn't how people talk to it. No, do you ever go up to your friends and you start just like giving just some serious exposition about your life? Probably not. You know, so it's just hard to do it, to put it in a casual conversation. Like when you get the thing about Sean and his wife, it's literally like one throwaway line. Like if you're not paying attention, where he says it to Whitey about how his friend or how his wife will call him and not say anything, you'd completely miss it.
That's it.
I feel like. I mean, she does it in the movie, but that's all you know about what's going on. Else you'd be like, who's calling him and not saying anything? So like seriously, you blink and you can miss it. Whereas you get so much description about what's going on. Like they don't mention the fake tickets and stuff in the movie. Sean was never suspended. He wasn't coming off suspension like this. Like,
see, to me, that's a very important because that's a misuse of authority again.
I think the movie should have been about 3 hours. It should have been about 3 hours.
Do you guys think that Sean getting back together with Lauren at the end of the film is our little ray of hope in this? Or
let me give these people I just beat the shit out of for 400 pages something nice.
This is what I feel about that. Here's what I feel about that. The what you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say, Dr. J.
I got something even darker. Go ahead.
Let's spin that wheel of trauma and chaos. He gets back together with Lauren at the end. This is my child. I accept it. We have
this just family. Delusional here.
We have this family coming back together, but then we know Sean will misuse his authority. We know Sean knows what Jimmy really did, and what does he do across the street at that parade? He does this. This story is not over. Sean is going to step over the lines. He is going to misuse his authority. This circular story of trauma is nowhere near over. It's just that Chekhovian ending of that. Like, it's over because Chekhov says it's over, but the trauma is not over.
So we're just rats on a wheel.
That's it.
My rule messed up.
Maybe. I mean, I can see John's point, but I think that's asking the reader to really get meta about, the themes of this book in predicting the future. I think Philip might be actually onto something here, because there is no hope in this book really other than that. And he didn't need to write that in. He didn't need to have a reconnection of Sean and the wife. He could have just left it off. He could have ended with another phone call that she never says a word, if he wanted to end it all entirely bleak. So I don't know. I mean, it's either what Philip says, that there's a ray of hope, or it's what John says, and that I'm going to give you a little taste of hope. In book 2, I'm going to snatch it away, and she gets hit by a bus. So who knows?
They do break the pattern. They break the pattern of not communicating.
They
That's
do. They
More
do.
sadist analysis of this, you guys. Much more sadist. To me, this ending was Taxi Driver, and then it didn't happen. Because why all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, all of a sudden this lady who hasn't been talking to him for long, because there's a line that he says to Jimmy in the street there. He said, sometimes I wonder if we're still 11 years old. We all got in that car, and this is just kind of the world we created to kind of hide from that.
Oh,
and then the next chapter, all of a sudden, boom, I'm back with my wife. I know my kid. We're happy together at this parade. Sounds a lot like the ending of Taxi Driver, whereas that didn't actually happen. This is all in this guy's head, isn't it?
Oh, man.
But maybe it's just because I know that this is the same author who wrote Shutter Island. I won't spoil Shutter Island for you, but just you would say, yeah, that makes sense. That
Mike, my brother in darkness. I love it. Just
sorry,
when I
there's
think
no happy
on
endings
that
in the
far,
Brian,
Mike goes first.
Philip and I are
These
just
two
hanging
guys,
on
they're
to
just reveling. They're reveling.
Philip and I are holding on to the ray of hope for this. There's got to be a redemption somewhere.
No,
it's like, look, you don't say that, and then the next chapter, all of a sudden, boom, out of nowhere, you got a Disney ending. Nuh-uh.
Yeah,
not in a book like
this is the better part about books too. Is Brian nailed it? It is ambiguous in a way where each one of us can walk away feeling with what we want to fill in the blank with. Our interpretation and our journey with that character.
Yeah,
rounded.
He leaves it that way on purpose, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that Brian and I have a case in that they break the pattern of miscommunication. They're very honest with each other. They both admit their guilt and their fault. And they even admit, she says at a certain point, I don't know if this is going to work, but I hope it does, and he's like, yeah.
No, you guys are probably right because, you see that Jimmy and his wife, they finally are completely open about everything.
That's true.
Sean and his wife apparently are completely open about everything. So, yeah, you're all probably right. That's just where I went. I was like, it's just so weird that happens on the next chapter.
Your interpretation is more interesting, I think. So, yeah.
But and Dave's wife ends up with one of the Savage brothers. Is that in book 2?
Which one? The really short one?
Randy.
Yeah.
Look, all I know is I hope Sean doesn't end up at the bottom of the Mystic and
Mystic.
The book 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys realize, I think
you really want to find Dave? I'll show you where Dave is.
I'll show you where Dave is. Jimmy, how brutal was that ending too?
I think
that was a rough scene, and it's like
that was very rough.
We all knew it was as soon as he got in that car with the Savage brother. You knew it was happening, and it was just like, it's that thing I say that I like about horror at this age, where horror can't scare you unless you're Philip past a certain age, But what scares me is that horrific thing's about to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop it, and you just got to keep going. That's kind of how I felt about Dave's last 2 chapters alive. It was
And Jimmy thought this through pretty clear when he shows up at the bar and he's all outfitted out with all these different layers on him, so no physical evidence is ever gonna say Jimmy. So yeah. Oh, that's very cool. Clint Eastwood.
Would you say that he said, "Go ahead, make my day" when they asked him if he wanted to do the music? Or you guys aren't old enough for those references.
Well, I know it, but
patience is there for you, Dr. Chase. She's got your back.
All right. But but Jimmy had this pattern of he had done this before with Just Ray, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there was a point in the story where he says, I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect my family. And I've done this before. And that's when I realized he's killed Just Ray.
I didn't figure out that he was the one that was sending the money, that he was one sending the
I did figure that
500.
out.
Yeah.
That great moment.
When he said he's done this before, that's when I knew he was sending the money.
Yeah, I knew he was sending the money right when he said that. But how heartbreaking is it that Dave, like you say, Dave's been dead since he got in that car as a kid. And it's the wild man, Jimmy, that would climb the phone poles and all this stuff that he's been following around like a lost puppy, a tag along, that brings about the end at at the banks of the Mystic River.
Sad reality that Dave has to go murder the shit out of someone so he doesn't repeat the pattern. That's heartbreaking shit, man.
Oh, that's just as heartbreaking. Yeah, just when he is triggered and he sees that gentleman in the car soliciting the young person.
So when someone says that Robin Hobb treats her characters worse than anybody alive, no.
Well, I'm only the first 3 books in, but this is brutal stuff.
You won't see. You won't see this.
Robin Hobb is puppy dogs and rainbows.
Yeah, you won't see this.
Yeah.
So the difference is Robin Hobb gives you moments of beauty and connection.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
But what about R. Scott Bakker? Is it close?
No, Dennis Lehane and R. Scott Baker are like simpatico.
They're sharing bunks. They're sharing bunk beds.
He's in a pod.
They're sharing some drinks down at the pub in the flats for sure.
For sure.
No doubt.
Yeah. One of them is going to get in the back seat of that car and go to the pub.
Ooh.
No, I think that both Baker and Lehane are probably driving that car.
Yeah.
But I could really tell why Dennis Lehane has experienced so much success in TV as well, because he is so good at dialogue. And I think that translates. Somebody in the comments said that he's written for The Wire, which is one of my all-time favorite crime shows.
Oh, The Wire is phenomenal.
And I guess he's written a bunch of that. So that's very cool.
Wow.
Well, I'll have to take Josh's advice on which one to read next, because I picked up Shutter Island and
right,
Gone
hit us,
Baby
Josh.
Gone,
What's
but everybody
the one we
freaked
should
out
read?
and said, "Yo, Gone Baby Gone is like book 4 in a series. Don't read that one." I just assumed since
okay.
it was a movie that it was a book on its own, So I'll take Josh's advice on which one I should read next. He said this is not his favorite Lehane book, so Josh, let me know what
he said. That they usually he gets a little bit more humor in there, so it's not as bleak. Okay, all right, here we go. Small Mercies is the most similar.
Okay.
But which one would you say, Josh, if we want a little bit more?
The Given Day.
The Given Day is my favorite.
There was not a single moment of laughter in this.
Nothing.
No.
No.
Yeah.
There was no levity at all in this.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when the boys are just like, being shit starters at the very beginning of the book, I might have been like, oh, this is
chapter 1.
Yeah, maybe the first 3 pages.
Yeah.
See, I was over at about, page 2.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
The humor went away with that car.
Yeah.
The Given Day is historical fiction. Okay, cool. All right. Well, does anybody have? We've been going a little bit over an hour, guys. Does anybody? I don't want to take up everybody's evening.
I think
does
at
anybody?
this point, since we've went through one round, I think we should rank the books.
Oh, I think we all know how this is going to go.
This.
Mike. No, let's rank them. You don't have to have the same ranking, but let's individually rank them of the 4 that we read.
All right. Who wants to go?
I already
first?
know
Mike?
Mike's order. I think.
Mike, you go first.
Okay, I'm going number 1, Mystic River. Number 2, Ordinary Grace. Number 3, Last Kingdom. Number 187, The Vanished Birds. And I bet I can guess Phillips. I know he's got Last Kingdom number 1 because it's.
I know.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And that tells you how good this has been, though. If Last Kingdom, a book I really, really liked,
is number 3.
It's number 3. We're doing good here.
I would go actually The Last Kingdom, Ordinary Grace, Mystic River, and I actually liked it much more than you did, Mike. But
not being so nice, Philip.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Ordinary Grace, Mystic River, Last Kingdom, Vanished Birds. And Ordinary Grace and Mystic River are almost tied because, like I said, I just don't do 5 stars that often, and they're both 5 stars, just for totally different reasons. And I rank it just slightly higher because I didn't find myself so miserable as much as I did with Mystic River. But it's
you're right, man. I think
fantastic.
I'm like reading Hangover. Like I'm having a hard time reading anything fantasy right now since I finished this book.
Yeah. I mean,
it might be a combination of doing that and Blackmouth in the same month, which are two emotional powerhouse books. I think it just messed me up a little bit. Where I'm like, I'm not ready to think anything huge and epic right now.
Rifkin's asking where I rank it. Okay, so my ranking will be that I would put Mystic River number 1. I would put Last Kingdom number 2, and I would put Ordinary Grace number 3, and I would put Vanished Birds number 4. But I did enjoy it. There was a lot to like there.
Yeah, that first chapter was really good.
It was Doctor Who. It was Doctor Who episode.
If it had just ended right there as a short story, it would have been amazing.
Oh, and that I think it was every one of our number 4.
Yeah,
it was.
That is why I lost the choice. Yes. I think that rule should stick. If anyone picks a book that it's all 4 of our number 4s after a year, that person loses.
We're eliminated. We're down to 3 teams now. You
are defrocked from the Quilluminati.
Like Survivor, you're
voted off the island. You're voted out of the library.
Don't vote me off the island. Don't vote me off the island.
Okay, well, hey, I feel good about picking this and it not being for sure a grand slam because I don't know much about it. So maybe I've got the chance to be the disappointment.
No, I remember liking this quite a bit. Like when I read it 20 or so
I don't feel like Chris would recommend crap to me.
No,
I really don't.
No.
Not just because he knows the author personally. I don't feel like he would hype up some crap for me. So
Yeah. I mean, and I have to shout out because Josh is in the comments. My idea to suggest this book for us really came from watching Josh's channel because he's talking about Dennis Lehane all the time. And I'm like, gosh, not only have I not read anything, but I've never heard any of these three guys talk about Dennis Lehane before. So,
yeah, but him and Durfee saying it's like their favorite mystery book like ever.
Yeah.
Let me be like, all right, well, that's
yeah.
I want to check it out. So.
That's where it's like, yeah, okay, cool. I trust Josh. So yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect. I trust you. I'm going to
because you know what Josh does, Brian? He reads Stephen King like constantly.
He sure does.
Do a little bit more.
Mike, we got to pick a Stephen King one time. One of the two of us has to do that.
You've read them all.
No, there's a couple I haven't read.
I haven't read Holly.
That's not one to know.
That'll be Mike's that'll be
that's gotta be John's pick. That way he can come
in. I have to tell you, I am going to get.
If John comes in last again, then he's definitely voted off the island.
I am going to get a focus group. I'm going to workshop my choice.
He's going to workshop the choice.
I'm not just like throwing a title out there. I'm going to make sure.
Actually kind of against this because I was liking us stepping away really from fantasy because we all cover fantasy so much. But this just sounded unique enough. And again, like I said, Lord Byron, Keats.
Yeah, and it's not on any of our TBRs. It's not been on any of our radars as far as I know that, I'm planning to get to this book anyway. So I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, I promise I'm going to have a good pick. I'm looking right now at shelves. I'm going to have I swear. I'm going to have a good pick. Yeah. Yeah, I'm about to start reading Long Price Quartet with Josh, so I can't wait to start
that I'm really happy for. You're going to love that.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything else on Mystic River before we break up this meeting of the Augusta?
Brian, I just got to congratulate you for winning this round.
Thank you.
You did a great pick, man. This is without a doubt will be on my top 10 at the end of the year. I don't see myself reading 10 more books better than this one. If I do, this might be the greatest reading year of my life.
For sure. Same here. If I find 10 other books that I think are higher quality than this, I'd be just shocked.
Yeah, I would think it would have to make that list for me as well. It was a really good pick. I hear S.A. Cosby is like in the same neighborhood as Lehane too, so I want to try him as well.
What books have that? I've never heard this author. Who is this?
I think is
this a self-published author?
Razored Tears is the one that gets brought up to me. No, it's mystery writer. It's trad. He's a trad published.
Okay. Not familiar. See, this isn't my like I saw somebody saying like they didn't like this one as much as some of his others because they didn't feel like the mystery was that hard to figure out. And I'm like, maybe it's because I'm still so new to this. Besides like Agatha Christie, I haven't read a lot of mystery novels, and Agatha's one of the best ever. But I'm just saying, I never really go into a mystery book being like, well, I've got to figure it out. And if I do figure it out, haha. I mean, with this, honestly, I use the Scooby-Doo formula. Who hasn't been on the screen? Who have we seen isn't really a major part of the story. They'll probably be the killer. That's that. I grew up reading some Hardy Boys books, and it was always a Scooby-Doo rules. Who was introduced in the first 2 chapters and has disappeared the rest of the story?
Here we go.
And they would have gotten away with it.
If it wasn't for
those meddling kids.
Yeah.
Razorblade Tears by S.A. Crosby, I hear is like up there as well.
Okay. Love it.
Don Winslow's The Force, if you like the grit. I've heard that one as well.
All right, guys. I'm going to a new format. Whoever picks the book is going to be hosting. So John gets skipped. So John will be going forward. So he started this whole thing, and now he's going to be going last.
I think it's well deserved.
Unless you guys want, I've done this, but if you guys just want to do John next month, I think we could do that just as we're course correcting everything. What do you guys think?
No.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
No. I don't need to pick that quickly. No. We'll go.
Oh no. The poop is ruling. The poop
John, you got performance anxiety now.
Oh my God, you have no idea.
The Pooba is issuing a ruling that John will be skipped. It will go to Philip's channel after Mike's, then mine, then back to John's. Yeah, I'll just make it a Pooba ruling.
Look at this. We've had 2 performance anxieties in this episode, guys. We're just
I
think I found your new sponsor, John.
This was quite the night of older booktubers.
Right?
Okay.
Stay tuned at 2 a.m. when one of us is in the bathroom. So yeah.
and then come right back. Come right back at 3:30.
Can you make it through the whole night without going pee anymore? I mean, come on, let's be for real here, guys.
No way. No way.
No, and it's more than one time.
Yeah. Well.
Wow.
Sad days.
Okay,
Sad
this
days.
is
Sometimes I think
quite
we
a
let
bit.
these go a little too long.
This is devolving quickly.
All right, everybody, join us back in June, middle of the year, for The Stress of Her Regard by Tim Powers. Mike's pick. We will be on Mike's book review. He will be hosting the next gathering of this august group.
So you guys got plenty of time in June if you don't want to start right away. So
Perfect.
Be on vacation, but that's okay.
I got to do it in June, or I'll forget by then.
Oh yeah, no, I'll do it. I'll do it at the beginning or something if we're going to do the second week.
Well, I got a 10-day vacation, so I'll have plenty of time to read.
You'll have plenty of time.
No,
I just can't wait.
And Mike, if you don't like this book, don't knock a few back on the beach. And
I need a video.
Man, yeah, I will live drunk.
You gotta do it again.
Yeah.
You gotta stick
Isn't that
with
what
the
yearly tradition?
It's the annual.
You'll have to blame yourself.
You think I should make Mike's drunk reviews like a segment?
Yes.
Oh my God, what an amazing idea! We just got to another 100,000 subscribers.
Oh my God, I need that.
That is where you coin vanished turds, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And as somebody who used to do that for a living, I could just see in Mike's demeanor, oh, he's got a few in him for sure. With this going on.
It's like on the ship we didn't have the drink package, but at the excursion we went on, it was all inclusive. It's like, well, I'm getting my $60 worth.
Absolutely.
So I was just like, when I ordered watch, just ordering 2 at a time, just like keep them coming.
Oh yeah, it's excellent.
Those are your sponsors, John.
Blue Chew and Dr. Pepper.
Well, Quilluminati. Dang, that's a
there. You
good
go.
Blue Chew and Dr. Pepper. You know, if I was living right, those would be my sponsors. I'd have no problem.
Hey, Titan, talk to my wife. Get her to make me read Sarah J. Maas, and I'll do it. She holds that key. Whenever she wants to use that ace, I will be reading Sarah J.
I've read it. I don't think anybody else besides me here has read that.
I know you would be the only one. I was just about to say that might be my pick for the next Quilluminati. That might.
Oh gosh.
Dang. Okay.
I read it. Oh my Lord.
Wait. What book?
A Court of Thorn and Roses.
ACOTAR. You did ACOTAR. All right.
I did.
I did Lee Bardugo.
I did the which one
Shadow
was the? No, I did her other one.
What about
Ninth House?
Yes, Ninth House. I did Ninth House.
You guys read Fourth Wing yet?
I have not. Oh God.
Okay, there we go.
If Philip comes at us with romantasy,
who picks after Mike?
Deleting
Phillip?
the channel.
I guess I do.
Yeah. Philip is after Mike.
I think those books are too long, right?
I have no idea.
500-page rule.
They sure seemed long.
That's what she said.
I just lost all my romantasy subscribers.
Yeah, Philip, are you doing Sun Eater this year, Philip?
I am, but later in the year. Yeah.
You're just going to read them all?
Yes. Speaking of deleting his channel, I think that was the promise, is that he's got.
No. That was for Warlord.
Oh, that's Warlord Chronicles. That is correct.
Oh, you're going to love that.
That will be Philip's top 10.
Mike, you made me the happiest guy alive. You made me the happiest guy alive today, Mike, when you added that to your list of.
Oh, best.
You called it a fantasy.
Low magic fantasy. Yeah.
Yes, you called it a fantasy, and that's exactly where that trilogy belongs.
It's the Arthurian legend. I know a lot of people like to pretend that it actually happened, but I'm like, no, Morgana and secret babies and magic and stuff wasn't actually happening. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to break your heart.
I am going to defer to Dr. Fantasy when he reads it to tell us if, in fact, it is fantasy. John is absolutely sure.
I can't wait for Phil to tell me how all those names were pronounced, because
Oh my God.
People that listen to the audiobook were telling me these names. Like, I have no idea who you're talking about right now. You're like, oh, you're talking about Garrett?
Yeah.
It's like, I had no idea their name was pronounced Garrett. You know?
I guarantee you Philip's going to read that and know exactly how to pronounce it.
Yeah. I just finished The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, and I did have to keep going back to the drama personae to get pronunciations of those names.
Those were so pretty. I got them up here.
Oh, Mike, you would like that. You would like those. Yeah. You really would.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So nice. So yeah.
I'm gonna readathon against her. She's the team captain of another team that I'm in a readathon against at the moment.
Oh.
Yeah.
I just got Ryan's new book, and I had to break it to him that, like, Ryan, don't take this the wrong way. I do not have a 480,000 word book in me right now. And he's like, no, man, just read it whenever it's good for you. I was like, I'm so sorry, because I'm on his ARC team. And I'm like, I can't. I was like, I did Shogun last year, and it burned me out for like 6 months, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I can't do a freaking book that long right now.
So of Empires and Dust is longer than of War and Ruin then.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
It's
much
longer
longer.
than Sword and Swords. Yeah, Storm of Swords. It's longer. Yeah,
He said he pared it down from 500,000 words.
Oh my good God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife said she's not interested in doing the Sarah J. Maas thing. So Philip, she said the ball's in your court.
All right.
The court of Rose and Thorn and Roses, or whatever it's called.
Nice. I like it.
Thorns and Roses. I always say Thrones and Roses.
You're on your own then, Dr. Chase.
Could be.
Hey,
Well,
I'll
this
read
is-
Fourth Wing just for the LOLs.
Oh, I think that'd be funny. We'd have a lot to talk about.
It's tempting. What if we end up loving it?
Cahill, guys, we will be talking on Philip's channel on Saturday.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
Ryan, the Poobah won't be with us.
And
but-
Ryan will be with us. So you'll hear the word Fook a lot. A lot of Fook will be happening on that stream.
Yeah.
Fook.
Should be good. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's going to be fun.
Ryan Cahill himself will be there. And we'll have some question answer stuff. So we're going to start non-spoiler for anyone who hasn't read Bound and the Broken. But once we get into spoilers, we can maybe even...
Once it gets to spoilers, I might be screwed. I read it like 2 years ago. So.
We're waiting on that summary.
Yeah, we're supposed to get it.
It was like, I loved it. It was like my second favorite book of that year. And I was like, I can't remember probably half of it.
It's a big book.
It's a lot.
I will say, hats off to Ryan Cahill for always putting the story so far at the intro of his books, because that is a lifesaver. I mean, for sure. Yep.
I can't wait to talk to him.
I just talked to Jay Kristoff and asked him, I was like, why aren't you doing that? He just kind of laughed.
Oh, he should.
Like, I'm serious, Jay. Why aren't you doing this for Empire of the Vampire?
Hey, now that is a trilogy, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Like Kristoff ends it with the next book. Like,
he talked about it. We already recorded it. The publisher wants us to wait until the first to release it.
Okay,
but he did say that of course,
this wraps it up.
You're tempted to keep going when you have a successful series. But
sure,
said, I started with it being a trilogy, and I want to stick to that. I don't want to water it down. You don't want to
stay
for him. Long. And I respect that.
You know, like
Philip chasing the world and know that in your story in a trilogy, it's hard work, but someone's got.
Well, at the end of that book too, you feel like, oh, this one more action-packed book could wrap this up so well. You know, I'm glad it's not getting.
No, it's going to be really long. It's going to be the longest of the series.
Probably,
but good for him for sticking to his guns, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Anybody else have anything else before we sign off?
For the good of the
stay away from Jimmy Flats.
Stay away from back seats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't go in the back seats of cars, and stay away from Jimmy Flats.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I told these guys before we started, I've been looking forward to this all day. These are three of my favorite people to hang out with in the whole world. BookTube has brought me some of my favorite people to hang with, and tonight was special. And it was special for all of you to be in chat with us as well. So come back around in June when we have Mike's Choice. And I'm halfway hoping it's not good.
I admire your honesty.
Good night, everybody.